Hi everyone, welcome back to George Antique. I'm Rhonda, and today I just wanted to show how I put together the long skinny journal that I had done for one of my recent design team projects. I'll link that video below and you can see which project that is. But I had made a tall skinny journal and it was similar to this one. It had the same pages in it, and these are by A Trace of Sparkle. And that one I had used piano roll as the cover. This one I actually used an old doily. This is another one I had started. I kind of messed up, so I ended up with 3 holes, but I'm gonna work around that. I'll figure out something later and make this work. But I had just punched holes in each page and had run some twine through it, and the way I did it, you can adjust it. So if you need to loosen it or tighten it, there's a way to do that very easily. So that's what I'm going to be showing you today, and I will just show you what we need. I've got some cardstock pages here. These are just coffee dyed pages, but you can use smaller pages. You can use, it doesn't have to be a tall skinny journal. It can be whatever kind of journal you want, but I would recommend using cardstock, at least for most of the pages, just to give it some sturdiness and to kind of secure those pages a little better when you're punching holes through them so they don't rip out so easy. If you do have to adjust the tightness or loosen it, then it just gives you a little bit sturdier of a piece to work with. So I've got, I think, 8 pages here of cardstock, and this is just coffee dyed. You can mix in a few regular pages if you want. Just make sure that it's a good sturdy paper if you do that. So we've got our pages ready, and you can go with as many as you want. Just keep in mind how you're going to punch those holes and the thickness that you want. In this one I have 8 pages, but in the other one I had used 10 or 12. So it's all according to what you need and what you want. And if you'll notice in this one I have different lengths. But I just put them together in a way that they all reached that binding so that they wouldn't fall apart. And this one, so all I did on it is, and just excuse the middle hole, it's not supposed to be there. All I did is just tear the top and the bottom down and to where it would fit in between the twine, and just slid it over them like that. So that's how you can easily add a little page here and there if you'd like to do that. And you can glue it in if you want to. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing, and that's how I did that one. So let's move on to this one that we're actually going to be working on today. So if you have plans to ink the edges or do anything that you would need to access those edges, then I would do it before you start to punch your holes and before you bind it, because it is a little bit easier to access everything when it's just loose. So if you want to ink, I would go ahead and do that at this point. And then you're just going to need some clips to hold your pages together while you punch the holes, depending on if you're doing a group of them or if you're doing them page by page. You'll still want to either mark your pages or clamp them and use another one as a guide. I have just some regular old twine. It's not real thick, so it'll go through those tiny holes. And then I also have 2 different hole punches, and you don't need both. I'm just showing you what I have. But I have the small crocodile by Memory Keepers, and then I also have the big bite. This allows you to punch several pages at once, but if all you have is a smaller hole punch or one like this, then you can just punch a page at a time or a few at a time, whatever you need to get those holes punched. So any of it works, just go with what you have. And then I have my piano roll paper, and on the piano roll paper I cut a piece that would wrap all the way around. So I kind of figured out where I wanted it to fall on the front and how I want it to tie. Just kind of keep all that in mind. And you want your piano roll paper to be about the same. It can be shorter, that's not a problem, but if it's longer, you'll want to cut it down a little bit. And then once you get it kind of figured out how you're gonna want that to lay to where you can still wrap around and tie. Because what I did on my other one is I put a little piece of ribbon through here and just wrapped it 3 or 4 times around it. So you're going to tie some ribbon to this if that's how you want to do it. So just keep that in mind as far as where you want that to fall. So I'm going to put mine about right there. And then you want to measure the length of it to where when you cut it, you can slide it in between the last page and glue that down so that it kind of secures that edge and makes it not as easy to tear. So when you cut that, just cut it a little longer to where you have room to fold it in and glue it to that very last page. Okay, so let's put that aside. And now we're just going to go through and I'm going to kind of get my pages all exactly where I want them. Make sure they're good and folded tight, good seam on them. And then I'm going to take and clamp these together. I think I'm going to clamp them at the top and the bottom. And you want to make sure that they are good and even and tight. Nothing is slipping or sliding one way or the other. Just want to keep them all the same. Just want to keep them all even. Sometimes it takes a few minutes to get this just right, but it's worth it when you do. So maybe I'll do it here. See if that works a little better. From project to project, I honestly don't remember what I do, so I have to kind of go back through and reteach myself. Because when I'm working on stuff, I just do it. I don't really think about it. So it's really hard for me to recreate stuff. Okay, so I've got that nice and secure now. Let me straighten this one up a little bit. Okay, and so what we're going to do is then we're going to take our ruler and we're going to see where the center is. So I'm at about 11 inches because I just used a full sheet of paper on these. Okay, and then we're going to see, so half of 11 would be 5.5. So 5.5 right here is our center. So then I'm going to go 3.5 inches this way and 3.5 inches this way. And that's just my measurements. You can go as far as you want as long as you catch all your pages that you're planning on using. So I'll go 6.5, 7.5, 8.5, 9. So right here is where I'm going to mark for my hole. And then I'm going to go 4.5, 3.5, 2.5, down to 2. And I'm going to mark that one. And then I'm going to turn around and I'm going to make sure that they are even this way. And I think they are. Yeah, so that's good. So there's the little marks. I don't know if you can see that. It's right there and right there. So now I'm ready to punch my holes. As long as all my pages are still lined up. And if it concerns you about punching them all at one time, then just punch the top one and use it as a guide. And if you don't have a hole punch that can punch them all at one time, then for sure I would do that. And you may have to readjust. It's worth it though to make sure that they're all even and stay even. So once you get that really good and tight and straight and marked, then see, this one's not going to fit. So I'm going to have to see if this one fits. So my papers do fit under this big bite, and if you can see, I'm showing you that the little punch hole is what I'm using instead of the bigger one, just to make sure that it doesn't put too big a strain on the papers. So there I have punched them, and I just put the whole stack under there, but you can definitely do them just one at a time. Now here I'm going to go ahead and move the clamps to the edges so that I can go ahead and run my twine through there, and also mark my piano paper. So I just placed that piano paper underneath there, and I'm trying to decide exactly where I want it and getting it lined up really good so that I know where I need to punch the holes in the back side of it. I'm going to need to run the twine through there and then also reinforce it. So I'm just making sure that's lined up really good. And now I'm going to take a pencil and I'm just going to put a little mark through those little holes all the way down. And actually my pencil just kind of punched a tiny little hole through it. So when I take the stack of my pages off, then I'm going to be able to know exactly where I need those holes. So there you can see, and you see how fragile this paper is, but I went ahead and punched those little holes in there. And just look at how pretty that paper is. I'm just in love with this. Here I wanted to show you how I'd made my own little reinforcers. I took that little die that came from some set I had for tags, and I cut out those little reinforcements to go on each hole, front and back. And that way it just kind of sturdies it up so it doesn't tear as easy. But if you don't have one of those dies, I have this multi-hole punch. So if you have, multiple sizes of hole punches, you could do this too. But I just punched out the small little hole, and then I reverted it to the bigger hole and punched out around that smaller hole so that you have the same exact effect. It's a little bit smaller than the other one, and I'll show you here, but it either way will work as long as you have a little bit more of a reinforcement on those holes. So here I just went ahead and was gluing those little reinforcers down and to both sides. But you could also just take and put a piece of tape or washi tape or another piece of backing paper on this if you needed to secure that a little better. So there's lots of ways you could go about sturdying up that paper if it's fragile like this. It's a little bit more delicate to work with, but I just love the results that you get whenever you use this old paper like this. So it just really gives you that vintage look about it. Here I'm just going to go ahead and place my papers back on my piano roll paper and line them back up, and then I'm going to go ahead and clamp them back just to kind of hold it secure so it doesn't move around and tear, and that way I can get my twine ready to go through those holes. Just makes it a little easier. I just really like the look about this that you get with the twine, and also how you can adjust it. So it just makes it a nice little option. So when I measured my twine, I did 4 lengths of the book from top to bottom, and you probably could get away with 3, but I just went ahead and cut 4 because I'd rather cut off any extra than not have enough. And I'm going to start running that through there. If the twine is hard to go through, then I just get a little bit of glue and add to those ends, and it just kind of keeps all those little strings together at the end so they don't fray as bad. And that way it makes it super easy to put through the little hole. So you're going to come and you're going to go from the back of one of the holes through the other side, and then you're going to pull it about halfway. You can adjust it as you go through if you need to. And then once you get it pulled through there and adjusted like you need it, then you're going to take and you're just going to, I also pulled off the clamp just to get it out of the way so that you can go back through that hole. You'll have to remove that clamp. So then once you get it through there, then you're just going to go right back, loop it over and right back through that little hole in the back. And then you're going to take your other length of string, clamp it back first because you're going to need this side to be clamped while you turn around and do the other side. And so unclamp the other side. And then you're going to run that other string from the back side of that one through there, loop it over, and go back to the back again. Back through that back hole. Super simple. And then you can just kind of even them up when you see how much string you have on each end and how much you need to tie it. So once you get all that figured out and lined up and evened up, you're just going to take and tie it in a bow in there so that you can easily untie it if you need to. It's really super simple, and I'm sure somebody's done this before. This was kind of like one of those things that I just experimented with and had no idea what I was doing. And the more I worked on it, this is what I ended up with. And it really worked because when I needed to loosen it a little bit, if the pages were too tight, then it was super easy just to go back and just pull a little slack through there so that you have more room. And as you decorate your pages, you also have to loosen it a little bit because your book's going to get thicker as you decorate those pages. So there I'm just showing you how cute it looks. And I left the strings long until I kind of know how short I'm going to need them. So here I'm just flipping through the pages a little bit just to kind of see if it's too tight or too loose, and it's a little tight. So I'm just going to go back and untie that and give it a little slack. And you just pull a little bit on each side and then tie it back up. Easy peasy. And then once I start flipping through again, you can see just that little bit made a big difference in how easily they turn. Keep in mind too that each of these is folded together, so you can take and glue the sides and have a pocket at the top, or you can glue the top and bottom and have a pocket on the side. So once you get to the back, then I'm going to take and glue that really fragile piano roll paper to that very back page, but I'm going to be really careful not to glue over my twine. So kind of stay away from the twine and the holes there and just glue everything else. And that way you'll have a good secure, just that piano roll paper will be good and secured and a lot less fragile on the back side. So once you get the glue, then you're just going to fold it over and pull it good and tight. Just smooth it out really good. And you see where I am finding holes as I go. And as I put the glue, I also had a hole that kind of punched through. But that's the good thing about this, is that when you glue it, it just puts it all back together. Those little tears aren't going to matter. So then once you get to this side, then you're going to turn around and glue that little flap to the inside of that page. So that way it is not any raw edges there to tear easy. Because my page is already torn a little bit on those edges, and it for sure would tear if it was just exposed. So there's where I ripped the paper with my glue tip, and but it's easily fixed. So then you're just going to fold it over and get it real good and tight to that back page, and that will definitely secure it, make it a lot sturdier. So just get all those edges glued down really good, fix any little spots, And that part honestly will not be seen anyway. So here you can just kind of decide if you want a pocket there, and you can glue the top and the bottom of that page down to where you have a side pocket, or you can glue the whole thing down. I'm just going to wait until I decide what I'm going to do with this journal. So there is what you get, and it looks so pretty. I just love, love, love the look of that. And just look at the front, and then once you get it all decorated and add your ribbon to tie around it, it's just a beautiful book. And I love the look of the coffee dyed pages with this piano roll paper. So I'm going to have fun eventually. When I get time to this one, then I'm going to enjoy doing that. And on this one, I wanted to go back and show you that to secure that one, I actually used another piece of lace ribbon, crocheted lace ribbon, to just to kind of secure where that fabric was kind of fragile, where I punched those holes. And on the doilies, you can either overlap them and let them both of the edges overlap, or you can tuck it in between the pages like we did, or you can lap it over that back page and make a real pretty little lace edge. So that's probably what I'm going to do on this one whenever I get back to this one. So there's lots of options, and just be creative. There's lots of things you can use for the cover that would just give it a beautiful effect. So I love, love, love the look of the twine and how it's tied on the back. It just reminds me of the really old vintage document pages and the bundles of documents that they would tie up. And I just like that you can adjust it to meet your needs based on what you have in your journal. So this was really fun, and I hope this was helpful. I hope it wasn't confusing. But if there's anything you have questions about or just weren't sure of, let me know in the comments. Y'all have a great rest of your day and know how much I appreciate you. And I'll see you next time. God bless.